Hello, friends. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and I am the audiophiliac. So today I want to talk about recording concerts. At a concert, bringing some sort of recorder and making a recording of your favorite band's music. Now, I started doing this in the 70s with various things. I don't remember which one's which, but I remember having a Sony TCD5. I think that was the model. It was a very high-end Sony analog cassette machine. This is pre-digital days. And I bought these Countryman microphones, which are kind of like this microphone. It was a lavalier microphone, and I would pin them to my shirt or my jacket. Of course, I had to sit still during the concert. I couldn't be bobbing around because then the sound would be flying all over the place. So I had to sit pretty damn still. And then you'd also have to be discreetly recording because they didn't want you to do this. The people at the shows frowned on making recordings at concerts. So I actually had this book that I hollowed out, a hardback book that I hollowed out to put the recorder and the microphones in so I could walk through security and they wouldn't catch me. Sometimes they did. I don't remember. It wasn't a very convincing thing. But anyway, so I get into the seat, I wait for the lights to go down, and I pin the microphones to me. And then I would start recording, and I'd be looking at the levels and making sure it wasn't, overloading or too low. And you know what? It was all very distracting to me because I wasn't really enjoying the show. I was thinking about the recording. I was thinking about sitting still. I wasn't thinking about all this stuff. And you know what? Most of those recordings, first of all, I rarely ever listen to them then, and I certainly don't listen to them now. And but the one thing I did learn that I think is really interesting, that the shows that I thought that the band was just kicking, everything was really happening, and I would listen to those recordings the next day, and I'd say, I don't know, it's not really there on the tape. I don't feel that way anymore. It's okay. And sometimes it was the opposite, that the band was just sort of, it seemed to be nothing much was happening. And I listened to the recording. I said, this is actually pretty good. They're getting in deeper. So the correlation between the experience that I had at the concert and the experience I would have listening to the concert, aside from sound quality issues, didn't usually correlate. I got to make pretty good sounding recordings. Of course, it depended a lot on where I sat relative to the sound system in the club or whatever, because the closer you are to the sound system, the more you're going to hear the sound system, and the less you can just hear people talking, all the noise around the club, the reflections and all that, those kinds of problems. So it was a good exercise, but I'm not so sure it was, useful in terms of documenting concerts and things like that. And I never really went back to them then, and I certainly haven't now. But I also did a lot of, and I also had this JVC binaural head. Now, that one you couldn't sneak in. It was a full-size, like a mannequin-sized styrofoam head, and then it had this microphone that went on, the headphone had microphones in it where the ears were, and then you could make binaural recordings. And those I brought into clubs and, people that I knew, and I'd make recordings there. And those recordings turned out better. First of all, I didn't have to worry about sitting still because the head was sitting perfectly still on the table. And binaural recordings are pretty damn good. They really do capture the sound better than my previous microphone setup. But then I also recorded live concerts on the radio, which was a big deal, certainly in those days. I'm talking about the 70s and 80s. And it was certainly easier to do than the whole thing in live stuff. But again, it wasn't stuff I ever really went back to. I never really listened to those tapes because I actually just preferred the band's studio recordings or their, recorded albums. Just did a lot more for me than the recordings I ever made off the radio. I'm trying to think if there's any exceptions, and not really. There really weren't. I mean, the idea of making recordings, it's a good exercise. You definitely learn something. And there's this company called Zoom, Z-O-O-M, and they make portable recording thingamajigs, gizmos, that are a recorder and have microphones attached to them. And there's one that I use for interviews all the time. It's called the H1. I think they just have a new updated one. But the H1, you could probably still find. They're about $100. And they record even up to high-res 9624 PCM. So it's a good deal. And just as a tool, just as an experiment to try recording things, a friend plays guitar or piano or something, and you could record it, for $100, or the new one I think is $120. Why not? And they have some higher end Zoom models that are like $300, $400, $500, and they sound really good. Very nice for that kind of money. And again, just as a learning tool, or maybe you'll be recording stuff that you'll be listening to for the rest of your life. That could happen too. So I just wanted to bring up this whole idea of recording as an adjunct to being an audiophile. Because one of the things you will learn is, in terms of like with the Zoom, that microphone placement is everything. And learning how to, place the microphone relative to, let's say, an instrument or somebody singing makes a huge difference in the way it sounds. And it's a fun experiment. I highly recommend it. For $100 or so, why not? But Zoom, check out their website. I will link to it below. If you have experiences on your own of making recordings at concerts or off the radio or whatever, please share them here below in the comments section. If you like my videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please share them with your friends. Please like them. And we'll all live happily ever after, making recordings of wonderful music. See you soon.